I want to take you on a journey and show you how to go from hate to being filled with love, unconditional love for every situation and for people. I want to take you how to go from wanting to die, hoping that you just don't wake up today, to loving life, to being called the mayor in the gym. I want to show you how to go from being a failure to your counselor telling you you probably be dead before you're 21, to 6 college degrees, actor, author, speaker all over the world, to loving who you are. Follow me, and I'll show you how to become limitless in your life. Dr. Limitless. Well, before we talk about Dr. Limitless, let's talk about how I even got to be James Williams. The earliest of my memory, I remember this very poignant memory of being in a trailer, and it was a knock at the door, doom, doom, doom. And I just hear people like, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, be quiet, hide. And we're hiding. And I don't know what's going on. I don't know why we're hiding. And they're like, he's outside, he's out the door. I'm like, who the heck are they talking about is outside? And it was my biological father, Richard Crumell. I don't know what was going on. I just remember those memories and wondering, like, why is my father out there, and why can't he get in? What's going on? And I don't know all of the things that my mother went through the relationship and all of that. But from my experiences, that's what I heard. And I remember that. I don't know how old I was, but it had to be before I was, 2 years old. And the reason why I say that is because we moved to Florida, Massachusetts in 1982. And only thing that I can remember about, I felt lonely. I felt unwanted. That's the only thing I can think of. I felt unwanted. If I can use those words to explain what I was going through. But shortly after, my mother met this great man named Jimmy Williams. And they got married. And my father, Jimmy Williams, that I tend to call my father, he had orders to go up to, it was in Rhode Island. I think it was the USS Capadonna. I think I'm saying that right. I could be wrong. But either way, we lived in Fall River, Massachusetts. And when we lived there, I didn't know what poverty was, but we lived in poverty. I think at the time my father was making maybe $18,000 a year. Maybe it didn't pay that much at that time. And my mother wasn't working. So she stayed at home. And we got into a program called Head Start. And thank God for Head Start. Head Start taught me brush your teeth in the morning, brush your teeth after you eat, brush your teeth at night. Just so many good skills came from that. And definitely when it came to reading and learning and all of those things. And school always kind of came easy to me. But I will always wanted the attention. I think about when my Uncle Kent used to come to the house and how everybody was like, oh, this Uncle Kent, they loved him. And man, I just wanted to be like my uncle. Or Sid, my cousin. He was a great basketball player. He was smooth. All the girls loved him. I wanted to be like him. My older brother, Dion, like I felt like he was tough and tenacious. I wanted it. I wanted that attention. And I don't know if I wanted that attention because of the situation, with my father that I told you, my biological father earlier, Richard. But it was just, I wanted something. I was missing something. So all of that, we're in Fall River, Massachusetts. We're living in, I can't even think of the name of the neighborhood right now, but it just wasn't the greatest neighborhood. I try to paint a picture for you. I remember one time we came home and it was a guy making snow angels right in front of our pathway to walk into our apartment. And one time we lived in an apartment, and I don't know if you ever smelled piss on like a heater. People would just pee on the heaters and you could smell it. And it was this strong smell. It just, it was so foul. We used to take soccer balls and they'll take soccer balls and they're tied to a chain fence and they'll smack the ball back and forth. We used to call these things ghetto games, getting in shopping carts at Stop and Shop. I'd be in it. My brother pushed the cart into another cart. I'd tuck my head in and we'd hit, boom. And whoever comes out of the cart, that's the one that loses. These are the games we played. And then fighting. I really believed, I fought so much, I really believed that it was just normal. Kids fight. I just thought it was normal. So I went to a school called Wixon Elementary. I'll take you there. And when we was in Wixon, this is when my name went from James Crumell to James Williams. So it was a lot of change that happened here. And this is when I thought fighting and getting in trouble was just cool. The very first day of school, I see my mother driving off. And, they say, look out the window at your mother, and I take off running behind her. I just leave out the classroom and I just take off running, and somebody catch me, as I'm leaving out of the school doors, and I'm like, I want to see my mama, I want to see my mama, and I'm wilding out, just acting crazy. And they call my mother, and I just constantly was getting in trouble. I'm talking, I was constantly talking in class, and if you know me, it ended up being a gift for me. But I will always talk in class. I get angry, just for no reason. I could snap. Like somebody could take my blocks, and I'm next thing I know, I'm kicking the blocks over. And my mother had to constantly go to school. And they said, look, we need to put your kid in these special education courses and classes. And my mother was like, no way. There's no way you put my kid in a special education. And I'm exaggerating, or I'm assuming this is how it was, because she would not do that. And she said, look, you could test my child, but he's not going to be in that. And I remember my mother prepping me, giving me the best breakfast, eggs, we got grits, got biscuits. And she was like, baby, you got to take that test today. I need you to focus, because they're trying to say you're not smart enough, baby, but I know you're smart enough. You need to make me proud. You need to go in there and show them how smart you are. And I'm eating my eggs, tasting good. And I'm listening to what she's saying. And it's like, damn, man, I don't want to let my mom down. Now, I'm not knowing my mother is saying, look, they see you as a kid that fall into these stereotypes. Black kid, we can just throw him in these classes, not good enough. And I didn't even know what black and white was at the time. And I'm like, all right, I'm taking this serious. Like, I really took that seriously. And I take the test, and I score extremely high. I score high enough to where they're saying, like, yo, he need to be in these gifted classes. And so my mother, in elementary school, I started going into those classes. And I'm going to be honest with you. I missed the class that I was in. I felt like I related more to the kids in the so-called lower classes. And I didn't know what a gifted class was. I didn't know the ramifications, what that can do on my life. I just know that environment was more important, because I wanted their attention. I wanted to be recognized. I wanted to be the best fighter. I wanted to be, at that time, it was the first time I was introduced to girls. Now, mind you, we're moving past, we have the Head Start. That's where I learned. I'm skipping over Head Start in kindergarten. This is like first grade. And I'm like, man, I want to be in there with them. This is when we're doing writing assignments. This is where we're doing math, basic. And I'm just like, I really want them to see me. Because at this time, I didn't know it, man, but I didn't really love myself. And I started being adventurous with my body, like sensations, touching it started feeling good. And I heard my brothers and other people talk about girls and all of these things. And I remember it was this girl named Vanessa. And I don't know why, she asked me to do this. I don't even know what was going on, but she asked me to kiss her behind. So she pulled down her pants a little bit, and I kissed it, and it just sent this sensation through me. And that's when my desire for women started, at a very, very young age. And the way she looked at me, it made me feel good. The way the guys looked at me when I got into a fight and I came back, and it was like, yo, you won. I felt like a warrior. Like I felt special. Special. So I understand how some of these guys and girls get into these criminal activities or make mistakes or do things, because I'm telling you, in that world, it feels so good. I didn't know nothing about this life I have now. I didn't know nothing about a college degree or what a college degree can do. I didn't know nothing about a professional job or speaking a certain type of way to try to influence. I didn't know none of that stuff, but I knew my environment. And sadly, looking back now, it was a very impoverished environment. And my mother had this friend named Betsy Means, and we'll go over there and we'll play with Eric, and her had an older brother, Chris, Dawn, all of these people. So we would play with these people. And over there, man, they had this thing they called a gauntlet. And what they'll do is kids will climb up on this little enclosure, and they can look in on it, and people will fight. And, I was fascinated by it, because I'm like, I always want to be around the crowd, but I was scared. I didn't want to fight. I was nervous. I like, these kids might can, really fight. I was nervous. And even at that time, I was probably nervous with a lot of fights, but it was this also excitement of, you could lose, this could happen. So I remember My brother was like, yo, James, it's your turn to fight. And I was like, nah, man, I don't want to fight, man. I'm scared. And he said, you got a choice. You can fight them or you fight me. And it made me think about this moment when we was in Head Start and me and my brother was playing foosball. And I joke around a lot. I laugh. I didn't know he was taking this game serious. And I kept letting these dudes score on us and I laughed. And he like, James, you need to take it serious, man. Play the game. You need to take it serious. And my brother Dion, he's 5 years older than me. I got a twin brother named Mac Williams. Also got another brother named AJ Williams, but he came along 16 years after us. So at this moment, my twin brother was very nice, man. Always, that was just his personality. Dion had his own things that he dealt with as a kid long before we got there. He's seen a lot. So he had a little anger to him, so I'm joking and I'm laughing in a dude spin the thing and it go by and they score. And Dion, like, he said, I told you, brother, I ain't no liar. And he walked up on me and I'm like, I don't know what's going on. And boom, just hit me. And I just remember going to the ground, like, what happened? And it wasn't like a pain or nothing like that, but it was enough force to knock me to the ground and question, like, yo, what just happened? And I'm looking around and I'm looking up and people looking, pointing, people laughing. And the pain that I felt was everybody pointing at me and laughing. And I share this with you because I said I never want to feel that again. I never want to get to the point where people are laughing at me and they're embarrassed. So I'm like, I got to do whatever I got to do to impress these people. And you'll see years later when I get to, that mean almost killing somebody. Because I cared about their attention. I cared about their recognition. I cared about their approval. And some of you watching this, a lot of you care about approval now, man. I want you to think about, if you care about it now, you need to go back to your childhood to see where it started. That's where, around this time, this is where all of that stuff started. Because it'll lead you to a life to where you give yourself to the opposite sex. You give yourself to drugs, alcohol abuse, all of this stuff, man. I abused myself because I didn't see my value. I didn't see Dr. Limitless. I just saw somebody trying to survive in an environment that I don't think anybody should really have to live in. But to whom much is given, much is required. But also, whatever God puts you in, this is what you got to do. So let's get back to the story. So he said, it's my time to fight. And I remember that moment, man, when I was on the ground and everybody's laughing. I was like, we're in Eric's neighborhood and got all these people. I don't know a lot of them. And I want them to like me. I want to be able to walk around this neighborhood and feel safe. And I say that because if you're not looked at as somebody with a special talent or the ability to fight and hold your own, if you live in any type of projects or any type of environment like that, man, impoverished area, you are going to have to know how to survive. It's not like some of these places where I'm at now. You see how peaceful it sounds? So much more privilege. So I want you to realize the environment I'm in, it's a lot of yelling, gunshots at night, all the time. That's in a different environment. Only time you hear gunshots here is when it's 4th of July and ain't even supposed to do it. All right, now back to the story. So I reluctantly be like, okay, man. I'm like, Dion, I don't know what to do though, man. Help me. And he tapped me on my chest. He said, bro, you tough. He said, don't be afraid of nobody. You represent my name. I was like, yes, okay. And I remember getting into that first fight, man. We just stalling, like, they like, what you gonna do? And I'm like, and it was like, I said, man, you push me first if you bad. And he was like, you push me first if you bad. And we just doing this back and forth. And next thing I know, Dion pushed me into him. And my body, boom, hits him. And as soon as I hit him, he said, oh, and he react. And I just start boom, 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 punching. Not even knowing how to fight, but I'm just punching. And I just noticed they grab us back and they like, yo, your brother's like a little pit bull. And I didn't even know what a pit bull was, but I just know the way that people looked. It was like, yo, I want their approval. And that's when this idea of James and eventually became J-Rock buying into these labels of, yo, you got to be hard or you got to be tough. You got to, all of this stuff. That's when it was born. That was my early environment. Fall River, Massachusetts. Kissing Vanessa on the butt and fighting. And this is when I said, the way to survive in this environment is you got to get girls and you got to be able to fight. And you got to be able to create some disturbance in the classroom. Because when I used to joke around talking, People were laughing. I'm getting their respect. But realize I'm getting their respect, but I'm losing myself. I'm getting further and further away from the truth of what I was brought here to be, and that's to be limitless, not buying into any labels. So I want you to think about, how does it start? Because the next video I'm going to go into how I started seeing the world, how I started fighting against a lot of these labels. When I started seeing black, white, male, female, girl, all of this stuff. Because at this time, I'm just trying to survive. I'm just trying to live. And that's what it is. All right. Be limitless, baby. Follow me for the next video.